In this lesson, we're going to be talking about protocols. We're actually going to spend a lot of time over the course of these several lessons about TCP-IP really talking about protocols. It would be useful to understand actually what a protocol is. When we're talking about protocols, not even thinking in terms of networking. There are actually protocols that you engage in on probably a pretty regular basis, even a daily basis. Imagine we've got Bob and we've got Fred here, and Bob runs into Fred on the street. What's the first thing that Bob's going to do? Well, the first thing that Bob's going to do, he's probably going to say something like, hello. And Fred, being the friendly sort, is going to respond with hello as well. Now, Bob is probably not going to drop it there because that would be kind of awkward. Just say hello, hello. I suppose if they were just passing each other, that might do. But if they ran into each other and were stopped for any period of time, there would be something else along the lines of, how are you? And Fred might reply, I'm fine. This actually is an example of a protocol. And in this case, the protocol that we're talking about is actually just this idea of greeting somebody that you know. Or if you're meeting somebody that you don't know, you may say, my name is Rick. They might reply, my name is George, or whatever. That would also be an example of a protocol. All a protocol is just a series of rules for communication. So there are guidelines and there are rules for how you would engage somebody else in just the simple act of communication. These are really sets of rules that we've honed over centuries and centuries of human interaction. So we don't really think of them as rules as much anymore. They're just kind of natural ways of behaving. Well, in fact, what they really are protocols, because they're a set of rules that we engage in with one another so that we're all really talking the same language on the same page and making sure that the other person is available for communication as well. So when Bob and George here actually greet each other, in addition to this hello, there's probably some sort of eye contact, and that eye contact is important to ensure that the other person is actually listening to you and that you know that they're paying attention to what you're saying. There's not only the physical act of communicating and speaking, or in sign, if that's how you do it, if you're using sign language, there are other mechanisms in play as well. So it's not only about what you say, it's often about how you say it. And because of that need for subtlety and inflection and eye contact, again, we've got these rules that we all sort of learn over time, and it's not like there's a book somewhere that says, here's a set of rules for how you communicate with somebody. We just kind of learn them over time. They're social norms and ways of behaving with one another so that we can have effective and useful communication. The same thing goes with computers when they are talking. There needs to be a set of rules, and in this case, they're actually written down. There have to be a set of rules so that both computers can say things in a way that the other end of the conversation can actually understand what's being said and the context in which it's being said, so that, again, everyone stays on the same page. And that's really the gist of protocols, and where we're going to be spending a lot of time understanding what these rules are and how they interact with other sets of rules, and how you use those rules to do effective communication between computer systems over networks.